On this episode, we're going to talk about how a luxury fashion retail brand can leverage social commerce. Let's do it.
With so many different platforms,
TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube,
and their purposes evolving daily, navigating social media can be, well, complicated. Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast from Cubco.
Social media really sucks.
Where we unpack the latest trends and help remove the suck from social media.
Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast by Cubco. You're tuning in for a dose of marketing and to get what's happening in the ever-changing social media landscape. So today we're going to talk about how a retail brand like Miinto leverages social commerce. And today with me we have the CMO, Malthe Cederborg.
Yes.
And as always, our social media guru and cowboy, Chris Covanes.
Yeah, I'll take away the guru part, but I'll keep the cowboy part. So, hey, what's up, guys?
And so Malthe, please tell us a little bit about... Okay, we have a pun in here, actually, for me to introduce the M&M, which is Malthe and Miinto.
Is that M&M?
M&M, yeah.
Malthe and Miinto. I like that. That's nice. It's
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah.
I've not heard that before.
Is that how it is?
I don't know.
I like
she,
it.
She came up with that.
Good job, Hara. I love it. Nice work.
So we're smart in here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, please tell us a little bit about yourself and then your experience in the fashion industry, especially within e-commerce, and then maybe a little bit about the brand Miinto as well.
Yep. I can start by I don't have a long history in fashion. I've been in fashion for 5 years at Miinto, where I'm the CMO, heading up our marketing team. Before that, I sold books. So a very different industry. I was for 4 years at Saxo.com, the biggest Danish e-commerce on books, and started my career there before joining Miinto. Other than that, 31, 2 kids, fiance, apartment,
Everything.
yeah, very
Cool.
very basic.
So strong. So actually a strong background in e-commerce.
Yes, it's e-commerce that not necessarily fashion. I've grown into that, but e-commerce.
Of course.
And digital in general.
Yes.
And I think you've had a very interesting career because you've really everywhere you've gone, you've kind of grown really fast into the head role of marketing, which is kind of cool, right? And you're still a young guy. So it's actually quite interesting to see sort of how you've carved out your own sort of space in the places that you've been and really taken a large step forward. So it's quite interesting to see. And you're also on the M list, which is super nice. That's the Danish, what do you call it? Dance markedsføring. That's my Danish for you guys.
I love it.
Was it good?
Yeah,
Was it okay?
Dance
So
markedsføring.
the Danish marketing industry media sort of announces, the top talents in the industry, and you've done that 2 years in a row, and you've also been in Berlingske, which is a Danish business newspaper,
yeah.
right? So you've actually you've got quite a great career going. So
Thank you.
kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us then. And what about Miinto? Can you introduce the brand a little bit?
Yes. So we are a marketplace for fashion boutiques. So what we say about ourselves is that we are the world's best fashion boutiques in one place, making it a one destination that customers can go to buy from whatever brand, whatever shop they want to get the best in fashion.
Great.
So everything from premium luxury and handpicked local fashion is what we focus on.
Yeah.
And what would you say is your guys' secret sauce compared to other retailers?
I think it's very much that focus on the customer, that we actually navigate a lot in what the customers want, not necessarily being a niche in fashion, which is very much the norm, that you either are a mass market or a luxury or a vintage destination.
Okay.
We combine it so customers get both those sneakers they want, those dresses and that handbag they want in one place.
Okay. That's
Cool.
actually very interesting when you talk about the customer side, right? So let's. I want to dip into this social media and customer service experience from Miinto's perspective. So you guys on social have 250,000 followers across different platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So what's your approach to social, and what do you use it for? How do you connect with your community, your customers on the platforms?
I think we use it in different ways. We the last one you mentioned in terms of LinkedIn is kind of a point we use to, of course, attract talents, but also communicate to partners and to our investors. what we're doing, how we as a business open up about our stories. So we are not just coming out once a year with a report. We're trying to share what is happening at the office, what is moving in our industry, and what are we doing. So that's one part of it. Then customer facing, it's a lot about Instagram and Facebook. What we do is we use it as a platform for creating, sharing our content, but then using a lot of focus on the paid part of it.
Okay.
The paid reach in those channels. Our customers are on social media. The organic part is not as reaching anymore, if to use that way of looking at.
Yeah.
But the paid part is very much a good media to reach customers and to re-engage.
Yeah, I guess the brands that you guys deal with mostly, I mean, they're building their brand through their own social channels, right? So it's really about sort of you guys just capitalizing on, okay, where can they buy? So being there at that moment of when they want to actually purchase something versus maybe building a solid relationship sort of outside of those zones on social, right? Because those brands are going to do that for themselves anyway.
Right?
So
You could say one of the biggest categories on social media is fashion. So there's a lot happening, a lot of content is being created, a lot from customers themselves, a lot from the brands. So it's about tapping into that and being there when they want to buy something, because we are a destination for making a purchase,
of course,
and making it easy.
How do you deliver this luxury customer experience on social media then? Because it's when you only live in the digital space, how do you carry that?
It's a lot about how we go about our content. It is trying to put together items to give that feel of what we have to offer.
Okay.
And if you look at some of
on that,
because if you look at some of the content we do, what we actually do is we take some of the best items we have from different shops, and then we combine it in kind of collages or in photo shoots to create that feeling of you can both get within the premium, within the vintage, within the luxury.
So it's kind of a mood board almost feel that you carry, like a vibe or a mood.
Sort of like what magazines do. Like, here's your top 5 picks for the summer.
Yeah.
A bit like
you
that.
need the sandals, you need this bag, you need this dress.
Also to create this holistic kind of feel to it, right?
Yes. Yeah, but also because it what we did in the past was we relied a lot on partners' content, and we don't touch the products. So that's the tough part. We cannot just go out to a robot warehouse and pick up 20 items and then shoot them. We together with our shops select what is gonna be hot in this season.
Okay.
And then we shoot something around that to give that feeling of a Miinto content and not necessarily something generic from a magazine or from different image banks.
Oh, okay.
So that's a way we can kind of get our hands on the products and actually
gain
show
control
them.
of your own.
Yes.
That's cool.
That's interesting.
I'm just going to sort of hijack this a bit. So you talked a little bit about the paid side being important for you guys. How have you seen the sort of paid, because you've been there for 5 years, how have you seen it progressed? How do you think, how has it changed for you guys? And sort of what are you doing now that you probably didn't do 3 or 4 years ago on the paid side?
When I started, the notion was already that the organic part of, for example, Facebook and Instagram was tough. It was difficult unless you had that really strong brand yourself and being something with a product or being a producer of something,
right?
To get a reach based on just posting something. And that have only gotten worse along the way. So what we've seen is that it's still a valuable platform to engage, but it is very much now a paid media channel, and it's people are still on it. So it's not that people are not around. The algorithms are just not giving you the reach when just posting.
Yeah, of course. Did you guys see a lot of changes after the whole iOS 14 sort of fix it, or changes like with the whole targeting?
Yes, for sure with the targeting. That remarketing lists got shorter, lookalikes got more difficult, that you had to rethink how you could do targeting. Had also forced us to be a bit more open about trying out different target groups than relying only on remarketing lists, for example, because they get shorter and shorter lifespans.
That's interesting. So you've had to expand a bit and maybe talk to customers or potential customers that you hadn't really reached before.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
But what about then? How do you then build? Since you have to build this different customers, then it's kind of you expanding your community within digital space, right? So how do you build? How do you connect your community, or how the brand connects with your community? Do you have any efforts for that?
A lot on LinkedIn,
Okay.
a lot in terms
okay.
of partners and the B2B and employer part.
Okay.
It's very much difficult on the customer side, especially because we're catering 14 markets.
That's a lot.
5,000 different brands within fashion.
Yeah.
500,000 products.
Yeah.
So it's very much it needs to fit a lot of people, and it needs to be more focused on the Miinto brand and less about that one-to-one communication.
Okay.
Because that's very difficult for us as a marketplace.
Of course. Okay, interesting. Let's talk a little bit more about this, how you leverage social media to drive sales. Because obviously, since you only live online, it's full digital then. How do you mostly use paid to drive awareness and sales, but do you have any main channels that you do paid social on, and how do you have the specific strategies you have for those channels?
Yes, it's very much centered around Instagram and Facebook, where we can see we can get the reach of our ads. We talk about these channels as our mid funnel, and that's a lot of what we do is based on the lower funnel. It is tapping into demand in the market and making sure that we are relevant when people want to buy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But of course, that also has its limitations. There is not infinite demand. So you also need to move up a bit and try to inspire and reach new customers, and that's what we use it for.
What about the live shopping on, let's say, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram? How do you are you expanding on that?
No, a bit actually. Like in terms of how we go about not communicating one-to-one, we communicate more on the Miinto brand and our assortment.
Okay.
Because live shopping for us is very difficult. We do not touch the product, and we cannot just go out to the warehouse and pick up items.
No.
At the same time, if we promote a specific dress, it sells out in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So live shopping would be a nightmare, because customers would be sitting and watching, and we would be sold out before we even started the show. So it's not really an option for us to take that one item approach.
Of course.
We need to talk more about the different brands and inspire a bit more in categories and styles, and not on item level, which is very much what we see live shopping is about. It's taking that dress and showing it off, and it's a really good way of getting one item out. But as a marketplace, you don't have that deep stock.
No.
So it's very difficult to pick an item that has enough and not just sells out.
But that's very interesting, because it is different than for your brand with luxury brands instead of large retail brands.
Yeah.
So that's a significant difference. That's actually
and I mean, you haven't seen that across a lot of luxury brands. They're not really like jumping straight fully into live shopping, right? Or like using Instagram Live or something like that, because it isn't a mass market approach. Like you can't, and you want to sort of also, there's a little bit of scarcity involved in the customer experience a bit. You don't want it to seem like everybody can go get that handbag or that whatever it is. It's a certain group of people, right? So, live selling QVC style, like buy now, like only $19.99, only 2 easy payments of $20. It just doesn't exist, right? It doesn't make sense for that. So I think like you're right. It's tough for you guys. You have to sell on the category, not so much on the item. But even then, I don't even know if live shopping would even make sense for you guys in that aspect, because people are so used to like seeing, here's the shirt, here's the makeup, here's the whatever it is, like for live shopping, and it's just not the way that you guys do business, right? So it presents some challenges there.
And we also see those competitors doing it, and probably with success, is the ones that is way more focused on the mass market or high street market and selling less expensive items, but large volumes, and maybe having 20,000 in stock of a red t-shirt.
So it's fast fashion, right?
Yeah, fast fashion. And we're very much not focused on that category.
That's interesting.
Are you, maybe this is also a little bit off topic, but then you guys might actually ride the wave quite well with, what's it called? Bæredygtighed.
Sustainability.
Sustainability. So you guys are very much riding the wave of sustainability, right? that feeds maybe perfectly into your guys' philosophy of not carrying fast fashion.
It sure does, in the sense that we don't want to focus on the fast fashion industry, and it's not that it's not our brand. We are not a sustainable company. Fashion is not sustainable. That's kind of the bottom line. If fashion was sustainable, they would stop producing. That's kind of the setting.
Very honest.
Yeah, but and that's how we also want to go about it.
Yeah.
It's not trying to put a green label on a T-shirt and saying it's sustainable, because it's never gonna be.
Right.
Then you shouldn't produce that T-shirt, and you should just wear the same T-shirt you had last year.
That's a good point. Yeah, but I think that's the honest approach, and I think like a lot of brands want to sort of mask, like you said, like this is sustainable, but
it's greenwashing, right?
Yeah, is it really? So yeah, it's good that you guys have sort of taken a stand. Like, we know what we are, we know what we do. It's not meant to like trick people into buying it. So
no, and it's I think we have found our ways. We are very much engaged in the vintage category with pre-loved items.
That's a sustainable.
It's a sustainable way of doing it, and using the items again, and collaborating with partners that also enables customers to resell and sell to other Miinto customers.
Have you seen that category grow a lot in the last 5 years?
It's our fastest growing category.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be.
It's really interesting to see, because a lot of our competitors have done it more as a marketing stunt, and maybe ending up doing 1% of their business. We are well on our way to plus 10% of our business, and expect to get to a quarter of our business within a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you see, your I don't know if you'd even consider them your competitors, but you do see this trend within even large marketplaces that are fast fashion marketplaces, that they're trying to get into that used clothing market, right? So it's quite an interesting space that I think will, like you said, it's just fast growing and will continue to grow. So that's quite interesting. How does that necessarily work? Like, is it the brands then buying back, or is it specific retailers that have decided to focus on used, like vintage clothing? Is that how that works, or is it the brands that are buying stuff back?
So it works like we started the company 13 years ago. I didn't, but the company started back then, and it's focused around vintage shops.
Okay.
So it's smaller shops or bigger shops that curate an assortment of vintage items and then display it on Miinto.
Yeah, you guys don't see like the actual like brands going to there, like
they are beginning to move, but they are a bit slower on it. Where in the city streets you would see vintage shops, and you have been seeing those for years now, and they're really good at curating and having good items on shelves. Brands are beginning to move on it. But it's not as fast as many of these shops that is already well established.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what category within vintage is like the fastest moving?
It's in the industry there is a lot of movement in terms of actually bringing vintage within fast fashion, which is a very weird mix.
Okay.
Because it's your cheap T-shirt that you would resell.
Yeah.
And it does make sense, because it should be resold. It should not just be dumped on a dump ground.
Yeah. I've seen old Marvel T-shirts go like bananas, like selling for $400. Like they used to do these overprint ones in the 90s that were like the entire shirt was basically like Spider-Man, and those have been blowing up like crazy. So
that's a collector's
it's
item
collectibles
kind of thing, right?
in some way, right? So but it is fast fashion. Like 30 years ago, it was sold for $10 or $15 on some place like at Walmart, and now it's $400. It's like, holy shit.
And that is part of it. It is, there's a booming of that 90s clothing, skater clothes, and so that is going into vintage. But one of the biggest category, and at least for us, is bags, handbags.
I thought bags would be the biggest category.
It is also for us, and it's also in the industry still. It's one of the biggest, and it's growing very fast as well.
You just saw that. What's the brand? Maybe it was Balenciaga. Yeah, I'm saying it wrong. I know.
Balenciaga.
Yeah, they had these. I think it's called the Paris shoe. Have you seen these? Like, they're new shoes, but they're so fucked. They look like they're like they look like 100 years old. Have you seen these?
No.
They look like they've been through hell. So like that's another category, and not vintage, but it's like
trashed.
Yeah, super trashed, like really like really worn
But
out.
isn't that tapping into the trend of, when people bought new Converse, they would try to make them seem as
More
used as
vintage.
possible. Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same
Like
category.
kind of the same thing, right?
But I
Just
think
in
that's-
luxury instead of
Yeah, I think it's
Converse.
it also goes off of that whole. I mean, it's the biggest trend of like you don't want to. I don't think people want the newest stuff. They want to feel also like they're sustainable. Like they want to present something to the world that, hey, I'm not going out
I'm
buying.
conscious about.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going out buying brand new bags. Like this is an old bag. Like this. This was something that even maybe if it's not.
Yeah, it's a statement you make, right, with the items you carry. You mentioned a lot about you guys are trying to build Miinto as the brand, right, instead of the specific one-to-one customer experience. Do you have any key activities that you do then to grow your brand and build your connection with the stakeholders?
Yeah, I think it was it cannot be me telling that story necessarily, but we started hiring a smaller in-house agency.
Okay.
Starting with the first guy, Peter, that I got on board 1.5 years ago to really head up this project.
Okay.
And begin focusing more on not just the basics within e-commerce that I came from and understands very well, but to try to connect the dots. So not looking different in all the touch points, not having a different tone of voice in all touch points, and kind of uniting the brand a bit more across the different touch points. So that has very much been the last year, and it's going to be the next year as well.
Okay.
It is to really give that feeling across the board in the packaging, in the way we communicate our order emails, in our customer service, in everything we do, making it Miinto.
Yeah, okay. So making everything streamlined.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Do you guys in-house a lot of stuff?
We had already in-housed, but it's especially that exercise. It was a matter of finding a small team that was just very ambitious on the topic, and then just let them free. I would say
That's nice.
it's very much, and they have their own corner. They are very messy around the office, very different from many of the other clean desks.
Yeah, okay.
But it works, and they are a great bunch of guys that is just waking up every morning dreaming about making Miinto the biggest brand in the industry and fighting for making everything better.
That's
and
nice.
is yelling when something is not good enough, exactly like they should.
That's
Okay.
great.
Speaking of things that might not be good enough, do you see any areas where Miinto could grow within, both in the digital space?
Yeah, plenty. But it's we have launched 14 markets, and we are still a fairly small player in many of the markets.
Yeah.
So we have a presence and an awareness in all the markets that we need to work on. And one of our biggest efforts on building that is around creating our own style of content and then getting it out there. And where paid social is a lot of the strategy to get it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen any key elements in the content that is really driving conversions?
Yeah, in terms of conversions, it's a lot about the products. It's about creating that need for going in and see what we have, because you get hooked on, for example, that Prada bag we show off, or that pair of sneakers that is really hot and you didn't know you could get on our platform.
Okay.
So those very much in-demand items and categories, showing that you can find it at our place, and then people start navigating and some convert.
Yeah.
How do you recognize then the need, the trend? How do you actually tap into that insight? Where do you get that insight?
I think the beauty is that we have 120 million visitors a year, meaning that we have
That's a
a
lot.
lot of data on what is moving. And we cover pretty much every brand in the fashion industry, from that mid-market and up to the luxury, meaning we know what is moving, no matter if it's a brand or if it's a category, if it's a style or a color, and we know it across markets. So it's not just a Danish thing or a Dutch thing. It's a European thing or even a UK thing.
Okay.
Yeah. We've seen, like, with the Facebook stuff, because it has become a little bit more difficult, we've seen our customers and also us moving more and more to sort of YouTube advertising, because the targeting is a little bit easier and you could say not really necessarily cookie based. Have you guys experimented with YouTube ads? What's been your experience? Has it worked?
Yes, we have tested quite a lot, and with very quick and dirty experiment type content, and what we have planned for actually next quarter is to go a bit up in quality of our content and creativity around our content, because we believe that should give us a chance to actually promote especially our premium and vintage categories even better.
Yeah.
And give a better feeling of that.
I think what's driving that, at least from our perspective, is that creative is the fulcrum, or is the point of difference. Like, I think social media thus far has been about, can you scale content? Can you get some messages out there? And brands have successfully sort of gotten to that place. And now it's like, oh shit, now it's not necessarily just about getting something out there. It's how do we stand out in this extremely noisy environment? So I think, like, you're experiencing, okay, we got to be a little bit more creative. We got to be a little bit more interesting. We're also experiencing that with our customers that are just saying, like, how do we take it to the next level? How do we do something that's really interesting? So you're coming at the same time that other brands are, so which is quite cool to see. Everybody's investing in creativity. Yeah. So I like that. That's nice.
Interesting.
I think it's beginning to move, and we're probably just a part of that wave. That understanding that digital ads is not just a quick picture and then you push it with a lot of money behind it. You also need to think the traditional way of marketing, that you need to have a story. You need to understand what you're saying and to who.
Exactly.
Yeah, it used to be that.
Yeah.
It's like there's this ad that sticks in my mind all the time within the fashion industry, which is, it's this company, I don't even remember what they were called, but they were selling like kimonos and robes. And the first ad I saw with them was literally just a guy watering his lawn in like a really weird place with this robe or kimono on.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, and the guy was clearly like a bit off. He wasn't a model. He wasn't like, he was just a regular dude.
Yeah.
And that just struck me as like, that's an interesting ad. Like, because it's not in a studio. It's not like, it was creative in a sense. And I think like that sort of creativity in ads and being a little bit different is what's really separating the brands these days. Being a little bit out there, being special in some ways.
Because the funny thing is, I noticed you said you're gonna up your quality in content, and that can actually mean different stuff, right? Like, quality doesn't necessarily mean polished, because we also see this trend in the authentic versus polished content. And that's actually very interesting when you're carrying, the luxury brand side. So given the current wave, it puts a lot of emphasis on being authentic, on, and relatable on social, right? And digital space. So it would actually be very interesting to know how you guys interpret it. So what's the future direction for your guys' content creation?
Yeah, and I think if we were betting all our money on building that more organic growth and more of an organic following, then I would also go in that direction and create that relatable content. When we use it as more of a media platform, we just see that the ad quality also works when you try to push it out to new customers that doesn't necessarily know your brand, but that you're trying to get a hook in. Yeah, that you also kind of need to sell it a bit more than just creating that connection.
Okay, so what platforms do you think you would want to grow on and monetize further in the future?
We for sure have efforts focused on building our Instagram account more.
Because of different markets, or
because of different markets, and also we had a strategy in the past where we had separate accounts per markets, and now we are gathering them into one. Because now our marketplace is also one marketplace across the markets. We have the same assortment. We have the same kind of brands. Different from 5 years ago where we were more split between markets. Yeah. So consolidating that, but for sure we will continue to be very focused on Facebook and Instagram, and then more YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have your eye on like sort of the metaverse? We see a lot of retailers starting to set up shop, have sort of a, getting prepared for a metaverse shop of some kind. Is that something you guys are keeping an eye on, or?
Keeping an eye on, yes. Doing, no.
Okay, where do you think that's going to end? Do you think that's just a fad, or what's your thoughts there?
There's for sure some that is going to do something, and some might succeed in some way or another. Yeah. Is it our game now? No. We have many other things to do, and many other things we believe even more in. We're maybe a bit more pragmatic in our approach to channels and how to use different media. So
I actually want to circle back to something you guys just mentioned, and I want to pick both your brains about this approach to a brand having when you scale your business, having different kinds of accounts, or each market has its own Instagram, because we've seen a lot of back and forth with brands in terms of some brands really do want to keep it contained and some brands want to expand. What's your take on that? What's the upsides of dividing and what's the downside of it?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
The downsides are that you have so much to take care of, like customer service wise, community management, content. Like it gets ultimately way more complex.
But why do it in the first place?
Because a lot of countries like to converse in their own language. Like I think it's more of a language thing than it is anything else. Because, like for example, we're currently building, Olaplex France for them, and that's like been a strategy to say let's do an Instagram account, TikTok account, specifically for that market.
Yeah.
Because the French market is very French. They want to speak in French. They want to so I do think that we're getting to a place where like consolidation is also happening. A lot of brands are like, screw it. We don't need this much channels. Like we just want to just operate from one place. Everyone's going to follow us on that one account. So, but I do see the benefit being that you can also from an SEO standpoint, they were seeing social SEO playing a larger part. So when somebody's searching for like a word in French or Spanish or German, then you've got a channel there that's collecting that, right? So that's what I think is the benefits.
Yeah. Have you noticed anything in terms of you guys want to consolidate everything?
Yes, because it depends on the limitations in your business model, and in our business model, the limitation was that we did not necessarily have the same items across markets. So, for example, our Norwegian account grew very big because we focused on a very local assortment with local shops in the market. We didn't have the same international assortment because we cannot ship across that border the same way. So that had its limitation, and for sure, like with the website, it converts better in local language, but it is very time consuming.
Yeah.
And it also makes it very difficult to make a buzz out of it because every account is going to be a small buzz instead of one big bang.
Yeah,
and that to me is the win, to create one place. So it's kind of one window into your business instead of having to show people around different small shops.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Thank you, guys. One last question for me is, since you have such strong background in e-commerce, I know you obviously also have your opinions. What's
I don't have a background. I've just got opinions. Okay, folks.
Opinions. Oh my God. But no, I just want to.
Artie's laughing right there.
I'm just roasting you.
Thank you. Great. That's super
aggressively.
nice. Super nice. Thanks. I really appreciate it. You know how to make a.
But have you
person feel
guys?
great.
What's the movement here in e-commerce? Have you guys seen it? It's obviously fast expanding, but since you have a heavy background in it, where the progress, the evolution of e-commerce from when you started to now, what's it like?
Even though for the nice kind words in terms of how quickly I have jumped to, I've been in the industry for 10 years now. Is that long? No, not compared to many of our competitors or other professionals in the field. But it's progressing a lot that people go international quickly.
Okay.
Compared to the strategy 10 years ago where you launched in Denmark maybe, and then you went to Sweden after a couple of years, and then maybe Norway. Now people go Shopify or they go another international platform, and they go just worldwide from day one.
Okay.
And then a lot of the things are automated. So setting up a shop today is way easier with tools. There's a lot of plug and play you can just tap into. It's a lot easier. You don't need to build a big system from the ground. You can just tap into very well functioning machines.
Okay.
I think that's moving a lot. And then of course it's beginning to consolidate in the sense of what people are willing to do to make a purchase. Where just 5 years ago you could get people to choose whatever payment option you wanted them to do or whatever shipping option. Now people have gotten used to the Uber feel and the Volt feel. Things need to be easy. It needs to be quick. You don't need your wallet. You just pay by whatever payment option you have as a preferred one on your mobile.
Yeah.
And now it's mobile. We are 85% mobile now of all transactions.
Okay.
So the desktop version of the website is not really a thing anymore.
Okay.
So mobile, quick, easy, very much frictionless experience is what people expect.
Yeah. Do you want my opinion?
Do you have opinions?
Not experience, just your opinion.
No, but I think off the back of that, I think like my experience also has been that because the barrier to entry is so low now, like having an e-commerce store is sort of easy peasy. Drop shipping is easy peasy. Like there's a lot of things that are pretty plug and play, like you mentioned. So it's coming down to like really great branding, communications, and marketing. Like how good is your marketing, right? So buying from this shop versus this platform, et cetera, like how good is that experience when you first come into the site that people go, oh, okay, I like this versus this, because any person can really start setting up their own e-commerce stores now. Just get Shopify, get my domain, get some products up there. So it really comes down to how good are you on that side. And then also I think it's a money game as well. How much can you throw into advertising? And how good are you at converting advertising to actual sales to keep your ROAS up? So I'm like, that's my opinion. Just an opinion. Don't have any experience in this at all. Just an opinion.
Where do you guys see e-commerce is heading then? From here to the crystal ball into the future?
I mean,
because how more seamless can it be?
Do you want the future? Yeah. I'm just going to think of products and it'll show up in my doorstep. There'll be no...
Yeah,
there'll be no shopping.
Yeah, wasn't it you talking about the metaverse, shopping in there, trying stuff, digital stores?
Well, I talked about like digital assets. I think digital assets. I think the model of retail is going to change in that sense of like when we get into the metaverse side of things, you're going to rent or license clothing or fashion, like essentially, or brands are going to pay you to wear it, which will be interesting because if you're a person of fame and fortune or some sort of following within the metaverse, brands are going to say, and they'll be able to track it as well. Oh, you're wearing this shirt of mine, spreading the brand around. I'm going to give you a royalty on that, right? So I think people become walking billboards essentially. Yeah. In the metaverse. So that's the ultimate. I think that's going where it's going, but I think that's really far out there. Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit.
What do you see?
Pie in the sky.
I'm more pragmatic than that.
That's good. I like that. I love that
the
you're a little bit more.
Dreamer.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know if I'm dreaming about that. I just think it's probably on its way.
I think it's only based on we've tested a lot and we continue to test every time we see something that we also see customers want, that then we try to move on it and try to deliver that experience if it makes sense we scale it. Example is that everybody 5 years ago believed that everything would be delivered within minutes at your doorstep and it would be easy and you could just send it back. And so we were one of the first ones introducing 90 minutes delivery. It was at a cost of 70 Danish kroner or something. Wow. So very cheap. You would just get your package right away. Yeah. Wow. And nobody chose it.
Okay.
Basically no one.
Why?
Because you can get it for free in 2 days. Why would you bother spending money on getting it now? Yeah. You don't need that clothing now.
Yeah, exactly.
The business would be there. If you have the option now, still Chris will be
There's for sure a couple of heavy users, but it's not a mass market thing.
The Volt delivery service or the Uber Eats delivery service of a sweater.
The way you shop, I think you do.
The only reason you'd want it is if like you're screwed, like you're going on a date and you're like, I've got no clothing.
Yeah.
But even, I think you're right. I think it's funny that the things that we think that we want, we actually don't necessarily need. Want.
Okay. Yeah. That's really surprising to me, actually. So thank you guys for sharing. I've collected 5 key takeaways about how a luxury fashion retail brand, such as Miinto, is utilizing social media. So the first one is Miinto as an online fashion retail uses Facebook and Instagram as customer-facing channels to share content and focus heavily on paid social reach to re-engage customers as well. And the second one is that luxury customer experience on social. As a retail without your own stock, you have to leverage social media formats to pick items to give this holistic look and feel, and show what customers can get within the different categories, for instance, vintage or luxury. And you have 500,000 products. So you have to focus on inspiring the brands and styles rather than showcasing individual products. And 3, communication to customers on social. The content is tailored and created in a way to hook the customers and convert to sales. 4, making Miinto's spot on digital. You have an in-house agency that focuses to connect the dots and focusing on uniting your tone of voice and communication to give the same feeling of the Miinto brand across the different markets and touch points instead of treating each platform separately. And lastly, number 5 is what drives conversions for Miinto is to leverage the data, focus on the trends and products to create the need to check what Miinto have. So use the in-demand products as a hook to create and drive customers to check the website and purchase.
Like the green Crocs.
The green Crocs.
With the heels.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's it. Thank you guys for sharing, and thank you guys for listening. Leave your subscribe, leave your likes, your feedback, your
just leave those likes.
Just leave everything.
Just leave them.
Leave them with us.
Slam them down.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned for the next one.
See you guys.
This has been the Social Media Sucks Podcast.